After losing both parents to a fever that swept through his village, Sikiru found himself alone in the world at 14 years old, with no relatives willing to take him in. With nothing but the clothes on his back, he wandered from his village to the larger town nearby, hoping to find work or at least food. But the town showed little mercy to a village boy with no skills and no connections. For weeks, Sikiru slept wherever he could find shelter, under market stalls, in alleyways, and sometimes in the open gutter when rain wasn't threatening. He survived by picking through trash heaps behind restaurants, gathering scraps that others had thrown away. His feet, bare and cracked, carried him miles each day as he searched for food and work. Shop owners chased him away, fearing he might steal. Market women shooed him from their stores, saying his ragged appearance would scare away customers. One particular hot afternoon, Sikiru collapsed at the edge of town, his stomach cramped with hunger, and his feet, bled from new cuts gained while running from a shopkeeper who had caught him drinking water from their outside tap. Those feet won't carry you much further without some protection, said a deep voice. Sikiru looked up to see an old man sitting on a low stool he hadn't noticed before. The man had a small table in front of him, covered with tools, needles, thread, small knives, and pieces of leather. Beside him was a pile of shoes in need of repair. I have no money for shoes, Sikiru replied, turning his face away in shame. The old man clicked his tongue. Did I ask you for money? Come here, boy. Warily, Sikiru approached the man. He gestured for him to sit on a mat across from him. Then, without warning, the old man took Sikiru's right foot in his hands and examined it closely. Hmm, he muttered. You have a strong feet. Sikiru was surprised by the man's gentle touch. Wait here, the old man disappeared behind the tree and returned with a basin of water and a cloth. He washed Sikiru's feet carefully, cleaning away dirt and blood with hands that were stronger than they looked. As he walked, the old man spoke. A man's shoes tell his story, where he has been, how hard he works, whether it takes time to care for what carries him through life. He paused to look directly at Sikiru. Good shoes will take you to good places, remember that. When Sikiru's feet were clean, the old man reached into a sack and pulled out a pair of sandals. They were not new, but they had been mended. This will fit you, he said, helping Sikiru put them on. Now, are you hungry? Sikiru nodded, unable to believe this sudden kindness. Over a simple meal of rice and beans, the old man introduced himself as Baba Aldo. He had been a shoemaker for 40 years, traveling from town to town with his tools. I need an apprentice, Baba Aldo said. My eyes are not what they used to be, and my fingers grow stiff. Would you like to learn? Sikiru could hardly believe his luck. Yes, Baba, I would like that very much. For the next 3 years, Sikiru lived and worked with Baba Aldo, learning the craft of shoemaking and repair. Never look down on old shoes, Baba Aldo would say. There is power in walking in another's shoes. When Baba Aldo passed away peacefully in his sleep, Sikiru mourned deeply. Among the old man's few possessions was a one leather bag of tools that he left to Sikiru, along with his final words, which were written on a scrap of paper. When Sikiru read those words, he knew he would never forget. Those words changed his life. He couldn't believe what he had found. He could finally get out of poverty. The sun rose high above the streets of Oyo as vendors set up their stores for the day. The air was filled with scent of spices, cooking oil, and the gentle humming of voices bargaining over prices. Among the crowd walked a lean man with calloused hands and a worn leather bag slung over his shoulder. This was Sikiru, though few knew him by that name. Aboki, shoemaker, they call him. A woman called from her doorway, waving a pair of sandals with broken straps. You have come back to our streets. Sikiru smiled and nodded, his movement quick and precise as he took the sandals from her hands. People always noticed how he examined each shoe with care, as if he was looking for an hidden gem in the worn leather and frayed stitching. How much to fix this? The woman asked. 500 naira, he answered softly, his voice barely rising above the street noise. The woman handed him the money, and Sikiru set to work right there on her doorstep. His fingers moved swiftly, mending the broken straps in minutes. You make them better than new, the woman said with delight when he finished. Why do you always come only once a month? We need you here more often. Sikiru merely smiled and moved on to the next house, where a man waited with boots that needed new soles. What made Sikiru different from other shoe menders who roamed the streets was his unusual request. After fixing shoes, he would ask, do you have old shoes you no longer need? I will buy them from you. They don't have to have the other pair. Many found this strange. Why would anyone pay for worn out broken shoes? Yet, Sikiru offered good money, sometimes more than seemed reasonable. Shoemaker, wait! A young boy ran after him, holding a pair of school shoes with holes at the toes. My mother says I've grown too big for this. Will you buy them? Sikiru crouched down to the boy's level and examined the shoes carefully. Though they were badly worn, he nodded and reached into his pocket. 200 naira, he said, placing the note in the boy's palm. The boy's eyes widened. But they are no good anymore. Perhaps not to you. By midday, Sikiru had fixed 12 pairs of shoes and bought 7 old ones. No one knew what he did with all these old shoes. Some people believed he sold them in other towns. Others thought he took parts from them to make new shoes. Where do you live, aboki? A curious old man asked as Sikiru repaired his leather sandals. Sikiru pointed vaguely towards the outskirts of the town. Not far, was all he said. No one in any neighborhood could claim to know where Sikiru slept at night or where he went when he wasn't on their street. He appeared with the morning sun once a month, walked until evening, then vanished with his bag of tools and collected old shoes. Some said he was a ghost shoemaker. Ade was invited by one of her batchmates to a party. It was a party where ordinary people wouldn't be able to come to. This was her friend's words, not hers. And she had to say she was right. She hadn't wanted to go, but she knew she wanted to make the best of her time while she was serving at this state. What kind of investigative journalist would she be if she wasn't curious about things she had never seen before? She was tired from traveling from one town to the other. So when she got to the party, all she could do was lavish in the food, drinks, and mesmerizing sight. She saw her friend wasn't joking about the party. It was exclusive. She only got in when they saw her name on the guest list. The attendees of the parties sprayed money like there was no tomorrow, which was breaking the law. But it would seem these people didn't give a crap about the law. They danced and drank and made as much noise as they could. Then the noise grew louder as a man whose back was turned to her stepped up to the dancing scene and simply threw money at the singer. That was the only way she could describe what he was doing. He wasn't spraying the money, but blatantly throwing it. Ade's friend told her to get up to get her own share of the pie. Well, since he was throwing the money away, why not, she thought. Ade moved closer to the dancing and began to pick the flyaway bills, but then stopped short at the man she was looking at, not far away from her. She would recognize those eyes anywhere. He looked different. She knew people resembled each other sometimes, but his mole gave him away. The man she was looking at was the same man who had mended her roommate's shoes last month. She closed and opened her eyes over and over again, trying to make sure that what she was looking at was real. He was dressed in immaculate white agbada, gold cufflinks, catching the light, expensive shoes polished to a mirror shine. She watched, fascinated as he moved through the crowd with an ease that suggested he was completely at home among the wealthy. Their eyes met across the room. Sikiru's gaze was intense, seemingly penetrating right through her. When he approached, his smile was disarming. Sikiru moved closer. Ade could see it clearly now. She wasn't mistaken. This was the shoemaker. Perhaps he had been pretending to be poor, so he could find a woman who loved him truly and honestly, like all those stories she had read. But her sixth sense was on high alert when it came to this man. They sat down at the party and chatted. She could see that everything they knew about this man was a lie. His words were clear and crisp. There was no accent like he normally had. At this point, she wanted to know exactly what was going on, and the best way for that to happen was for her to get herself invited into his inner circle. Sikiru was enjoying the company of the woman before him. He knew she was bowled over by his wealth, and he was enjoying seeing her. Whether women or men, they would give you attention and kiss your feet according to the size of your wallet, he thought. He saw that she would like to see him again, so he asked her out. She accepted, but asked him if they could have dinner at his house. Sikiru agreed. In his eagerness to become closer to the woman before him, he had forgotten that tomorrow was a special day for him. When Ade got to the address Sikiru had given her, it was exactly what one would expect from a wealthy businessman. Gold-plated furnitures, marble floors, expensive artwork adorning the walls that seemed to stretch endlessly. Sikiru was the perfect host. He was attentive and gracious, but Ade's journalistic instincts were on high alert. Something didn't add up. She had told her roommate what had happened at the party, but she didn't believe her. It made no sense. How can a shoemaker be a rich man? And she had no way to prove that she was right. At the party, they had confiscated their phones due to the high caliber of most of their guests, but she was determined to prove that she wasn't out of her mind. Sikiru's alarm rang on his phone while they were having dinner, reminding him of the special thing he had to do today. It was a full moon after all, so he tried to cut their conversation short. Ade saw that Sikiru was tensed and he was trying to end their evening and send her away. So she feigned a stomach ache that evening, hoping to stay overnight and uncover the truth. Sikiru, ever the gentleman he was pretending to be, and he had been for a long time, prepared a luxurious guest room and ensured that she was comfortable. She would, after all, be asleep the moment she took her drugs, so he got to his important task. As midnight approached, Ade quietly slipped out of her room. Her phone was fully charged and set to record. She moved silently through the expansive hallways, her heart racing with anticipation. The first room she discovered was extraordinary. It was an entire walk in closet. It was meticulously organized. But the odd part was it was filled with hundreds of old, worn out shoes. They were arranged with almost irreverent care. Most of them did not have the other pair. She didn't understand why anyone would keep this, yet they were positioned carefully, almost like a shrine. The moment she got out of her very own thoughts, she heard it, a low rhythmic chanting from another room. She crept closer with her heart in her mouth. Then she saw him. Sikiru was in a dimly lit space. He stood naked, surrounded by basins of water. The old shoes were arranged in a perfect circle around him. In his hands, he held a shoe, chanting words she could barely make out. Then she moved just a little bit closer, and she heard it. Whatever good places these shoes can take the owner, let their luck be mine. Let their success be mine. Let their fortune be mine. He repeated, his voice a hypnotic whisper. Then, in a ritual that seemed both bizarre and sacred, he began to wash each shoe in the water. As he did this, the waters changed colors. Then he began to pour the water from the basin over himself, over and over and over again. The water that had been used to wash these old discarded shoes, the water ran down his body as he continued his chant. Ade, unable to control a shock, accidentally knocked against a vase. The sound echoed through the room. Siki returned. At that moment, their eyes met. Everything changed. She ran as fast as she could, with the shock of the event she had witnessed making her body feel heavy. But survival of the fittest kept her legs moving. When she got home, she showed the video to her roommates, who were shocked at everything they saw. They saw it clearly. This was the shoemaker who had fixed her worn out shoes, quietly and with skill. They all agreed that she should put the video up on every social media site there was, and also she should report this issue to the police. By morning, the video was uploaded to social media. By afternoon, it had gone viral. The mysterious shoemaker who collected old shoes so as to use the fortune, luck, and destiny of the wearer, who seemingly lived a double life, was now the talk of the town. Universities, social media platforms, local news stations, everyone wanted to know about Sikiru. The police began their investigation, but Sikiru had vanished. Some said he was a ritualist, others claimed he was a spiritual practitioner using an unconventional method to attract wealth. But no one, not the police, not the journalist, not even Ade, could definitely explain the true nature of Sikiru's bizarre ritual. They had obviously never seen such a thing before, but everyone's thought was the same. What else would people do for wealth and high status? To this day, Sikiru remains unfound. His stories are whispered in marketplaces, university hostels, and street corners. Some believe he is still out there, collecting shoes, collecting their fortunes. This very knowledge chills some to their very bone. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tell me what you think about the story in the comments.